friends. This is the program Empire of Lies, where we discuss manipulation and disinformation in Russian media. The World on the Homestretch, how Skabeeva constructs the image of Russian diplomacy's triumph. The latest episode of 60 Minutes with Olga Skabeeva is a carefully constructed political drama in which international political events are presented as a sequence of steps leading to an inevitable peace settlement on Moscow's terms. It's important to emphasize it's not the presenter's rhetoric, but the content, structure, and selection of facts that create a coherent propaganda construct in which Ukraine loses its agency, Europe its influence, and the United States its freedom of maneuver. For European readers, this episode is remarkable for how it rewrites international reality, constructing a parallel diplomatic universe in which Russia becomes a key peace broker and the West its own rival. 1. New narrative: peace is supposedly near and it depends on Trump and Putin. The main news of the issue is the assertion that the Donald Trump administration is allegedly rapidly moving toward the final polishing of the peace plan for Ukraine. The document now contains 22 points. Trump is allegedly personally sending his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, to Putin. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who is presented in Russian media as a European bridge to recognition of the new order, is coming to Moscow. Skabeeva builds on this sense of inevitability, as if complex diplomatic processes have already been resolved behind the backs of Kyiv and Europe, and the remaining details are mere formalities. In essence, she argues that the only real diplomacy takes place between the US and Russia, and not within international institutions. Blomberg is trying to sabotage the negotiations with a fake news story. The agency pulled off a sabotage operation by publishing transcripts of what it claims are phone calls between Putin aide Ushakov and Trump's special representative Witkoff, and the head of the Russian Federation for the Protection of Foreign Affairs, RFPA. The American negotiator is allegedly not so American. He works for Moscow and advises on how best to win Trump's favor. I told the president that the Russian Federation has always wanted a peace agreement. I believe so. I told the president I believe in this. Perhaps Putin will tell President Trump. You know, Steve and Yuri discussed a very similar 20-point plan for achieving peace, and this, in our opinion, could move the situation forward a little. Understood. So if we can create an opportunity for me to talk to Yuri after this, and we can have a conversation, I think it could lead to something big. Sounds good, sounds good, sounds good. That is, the closer to peace, the more desperate the attempts to disrupt it become. 2. New thesis: Ukraine is the weaker side, forced to accept terms. The issue paints a consistent picture of Ukraine's military defeat, as if this were an officially recognized fact. Citing anonymous Western media sources, Skabeeva asserts, U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll warned Kyiv of inevitable defeat. Russia can wage war indefinitely. Further territorial losses for Ukraine are inevitable over the coming months. These statements are presented as direct quotes and leaks, although in reality they represent a system of interpretations favorable to Moscow. This creates the impression that Ukraine is entering negotiations in the worst possible position, weakened, dependent, and deprived of real allies. 3. Parallel diplomacy: Europe as an obstacle. The second important element is the consistent discrediting of European states. Skabeeva asserts Europe is trying to disrupt the peace. European countries are not ready to supply weapons and generally have no political clout to influence the US and Russia. Citing various European media outlets, Politico, NRC, CNN, She constructs a narrative that Europe is divided, exhausted, incapable of decisive action, and ultimately not an independent actor in the Ukraine issue. In this context, Orban's visit is presented as the only voice of reason, an element aimed at dividing the EU. 4. The disruption of negotiations as a conspiracy. Blomberg, fake news and sabotage. Bloomberg's publication about the alleged phone conversations between Ushakov and Witkoff is interpreted as an attempt to disrupt the peace process, discredit Trump, divide the American administration. Skabeeva constructs an image of the Western media landscape as chaotic, hysterical, and aimed at undermining peace. Trump, in her interpretation, is the only politician seeking to end the war. Think, analyze, draw conclusions, and don't be fooled. This was the Empire of Lies program.
З вами була програма «Імперія лжи».